Good morning and welcome to the Core Connection. I'm Mira Rubin here with you on Enlightened World Network. And today's topic is, who are you? Are you your beliefs? Are you your behaviors? Are you your past? Are you your future? Are you your potentials? I think it's going to be a really interesting conversation. Good morning, Dido. Thanks for being here with us. Welcome to you and to everybody else who's joining us. I apologize for the late start this morning, but it's great to be here with you. Good morning, Rosalind. Welcome. So good to have you join us. Today, we're talking about who are you? And because I'm late, I'm going to skip our morning settling in, so we get to just dive right into it. I think the who are you question is so valuable to really look at taking it seriously, because most of the ways that we define ourselves are mutable. You know, our beliefs change, our perspective on the past even changes. Our relationships change, our behaviors change, our emotions change. So who are we? Maybe we're change. The thing that we want to look at is that we are not our behaviors. We are not our beliefs. So much of the way that we identify in the world, we're not our gender. We even see the gender changes or is on a spectrum, or expression of sexuality also changes. So what are we? And the thing in probing this question, like we might define ourselves as a daughter, a son, a cousin, a parent, a sibling. The thing is that we are all of those things and none of those things. So to be all of those things and none of those things, who are we? And what I've been entertaining, and it's been a really rich inquiry for me, is, and I know I've expressed this with you before, but who I am is life expressing itself through this unique vessel. And try that on. Maybe it's not the ultimate answer. Many of us believe that we are spirit manifest in a physical form. Certainly we're consciousness manifest in a physical form. And what does that mean? I tend to believe that who we are is life knowing itself, that all the different expressions of life that there are informing life or consciousness or God or whatever you want to call this unifying intelligence or presence. It's a fascinating question, because for one of many reasons, because we tend to beat ourselves up for how we are. We have all kinds of stories about who we are, not good enough, not this, not that, or too much of this, too much of that. Sorry, my eye is just watering this morning, which is interesting. When we think of ourselves in terms of I. So it's interesting that we're talking about this and my eye is watering. I don't know what that means, but it's kind of interesting. Anyway, I think that we get to de-identify with many of the things that we believe ourselves to be, and perhaps identify with something that encompasses all of it, but is not limited to any of it, if that makes sense. So we're often told to let go of things, and meaning emotions, let go of anger, let go of regret, let go of all these things. And this is another conversation that we've had a bunch about how, being Westerners, we're oriented toward acquisition, not letting go. You know, we've been cultivated to be materialists and consumers, and to acquire things and to define ourselves by our things even. And so when we think about letting go, it's kind of in opposition to our foundational orientation and programming. So I came up with, instead of letting go, expanding to include. And Rosalind, I see your comment, and I'll respond to it in a minute. I just want to complete this thought. That if we can expand to include our beliefs, our behavior, our the parts of ourselves that we like and don't like, the parts of ourselves that have trauma, the parts of ourselves that we might be inclined to want to exile, if we can expand to include all these parts, then I am not any one of them explicitly or exclusively. And in fact, I am whatever it is that encompasses them all. And so when we expand to include all these different identities, all these different elements that make us, or that shape the expression that we are, then we can recognize that we're not any one of them, any singular one of them, but that in being all of them, we become all of life. We become everything and nothing all at the same time. So Rosalind says one can get lost in the notion of I am no one. What's a better way to navigate in that realm? So this notion of expanding to include is kind of I am everything and I am nothing all at once. I am no thing. I am no one thing. There's a wonderful saying, and I don't know who coined it. I'll bet you might, Dido. But we contain multitudes, or I contain multitudes. And this is true. This is true. We have such a multitude of expressions. The way that we navigate life over the course of our lifetimes, we express in multitudes of different ways. We hold multitudes of different beliefs. We have multitudes of different appearances. And they may be within a certain spectrum, but there are multitudes within that. It makes me think of Zeno's paradox, which says that you can, technically, which it doesn't jive with our experience of reality, but if we look mathematically, you can never get from point A to point B, because in order to get from point A to point B, first you have to traverse halfway, and then you have to traverse halfway, and then halfway, and halfway, and halfway, and theoretically you never ever get there. And we experience that we do get there, but it's interesting to recognize that there's an infinitude along the way. So Rosalind says, I'm just a collection of habitual patterns, reflections of my environment than what is real. So I don't believe that we are just a collection of habitual patterns or reflections of our environment. We're more. Clearly, we're more, right? So you say, what's real? That's the question of the day. Who am I? If all these things are kind of accoutrements or decorations or overlays, what is the essence that we are? What are we that encompasses and is greater than all of those patterns, beliefs, reflections, environments, all those things? What are we? And I love this question because it requires us to be experiencing our relationship to life in an entirely different way. So Dido says, and Dido, you're amazing. I knew that you would. Thank you for this. I Googled, I contain multitudes. It appears to be from a Walt Whitman poem. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So if we are no one thing, what is the one thing that encompasses all of those things? And we may not be culturally conditioned to be thinking about what is the unifying force here. What is the thing or the perspective, the notion, whatever, the concept, the umbrella that encompasses all of it. It's funny, years and years ago, I had a tumultuous upbringing, and I was the family member sent to family therapy, not regular therapy, family therapy. I was sent, and which I think is really interesting. But anyway, I was given some Rorschach tests, which are ink blot tests, and you're supposed to look at these images and interpret them. And at one point, the one thing I remember from that whole therapeutic experience, I don't remember how long it was. I don't remember anything else other than the I guess it was psychologist saying, it doesn't have to all be part of one picture. But the thing is, it does. It is all one picture. It's all one big unified world, right? And so if I am an I, if there is such a thing as I, it has to, in truth, encompass all of these experiences. And I know that this isn't popular in scientific realms, but if science is science that's true, it has to account for all experience. It can't just dismiss a whole category of experiences because they don't fit the scientific model, right? So, for example, it's always been very fascinating to me that science denies or has historically denied the validity or the truth of any kind of extrasensory perception or awareness like that. I find it fascinating because it's dismissing a whole collection of experience that has existed through hundreds and thousands of years culturally in different cultures. So how can a science be 100% valid if it's ignoring a whole realm of experience? Well, that's a whole other rant. But Rosalind says different levels of truth. The sun always shines, yet it's dark at night. I love that, Rosalind. That's pure poetry. And it is different levels of truth. To say I am any one thing is not accurate, right? We can just through very simple conversation recognize that it's not accurate. Yes, it's true that I am this and I am that, and sometimes this and that seem to be in conflict with one another. I am loving, I am hateful. That's an example. There are moments when we are at different ends of the polarities, right? So I'm all of it ultimately. And when we identify with being angry, for example, we say, I'm angry, I am angry, I am hungry, I am smart, I am stupid, I am old, I am young. When we say all these things as a beingness, the question is, how does that relate to this bigger I am that we are? The I am that allows for all of that. Because we get locked into how we believe we are or how we think we should be, and we discard these other aspects of ourselves. We exile ourselves from ourselves. We disown ourselves, parts of ourselves that we don't like, rather than allowing those parts, all those parts, to be integrated into this greater whole that gives us a freedom to be able to live life, to live, to be, to experience. And maybe who I am is experience. I think beyond that is maybe who I am is consciousness, life, God, whatever you want to call it, knowing itself, experiencing itself, something bigger than me in this limited physical expression. And when I recognize that, I am more than my beliefs, more than my experience, more than my thoughts and emotions and sensations, when I recognize that there's something unifying all those splotches that are in all different places, putting it all into one coherent, cohesive whole. What if I identify with that? What's different in the visceral experience of who I am is life expressing itself, rather than who I am is any one of the multitudes or any collection even of the multitudes, a limited bounded collection. What if I'm an unbounded expression of life? What then becomes available to me that wasn't previously accessible? There are realms of experience that open when we become that expression of consciousness. And so there's a fluidity that's then available that goes way beyond the box. It decimates any kind of box. And it opens us to broader and broader experience and expression of life. because there's a greater acceptance of all the pieces. There's a deeper integration. It starts to make more sense when we're an expression of life, and life is changing, ever changing. We get a certain groundedness when we are able to say who we are somehow. Rather than flailing in the confusion of who am I and what's real and what if I'm nothing and no one. We are no one, right? And yet, as we are no one, we are one. And when we become an expression of life, then we gain, at the very foundation, a connection to the rest of life. It's actually connecting to that, the greater vitality, the greater life. If we are an expression of life, then we are the in-breath and the out-breath of life in all of its expressions. There's no, the separation begins to dissolve, and it's profoundly moving. Rosalind says, I am not a boat. No one gets into a boat to make wakes. Where are you going? Is there a destination? I'm not a boat. No one gets into a boat to make wakes. Probably, well, people get into boat to go somewhere, right? So I'm not the boat. And so where are you going? Is there a destination? I gotcha. So maybe there isn't. We all, human beings certainly are destination oriented, right? We're all about getting there. And not about being in the journey for the most part. What if there really is no getting there? What if there really is no destination? What if the destination is just expansion and learning? And I think I get to leave you with that this morning. Really, truly, what if there's no place to go? What if it's all just about being and creating sort of a game for ourselves to be enjoying and experiencing, or suffering and experiencing whatever it is? What if there's no place to get to? And all of that is stories we've made up. So on that note, I'm Mira Rubin. This is the Core Connection, and I go live here each weekday morning at 9 a.m. Eastern on the Enlightened World Network Facebook page and YouTube channel. And as always, it is my privilege and pleasure to be able to be exploring these ideas and concepts and ways of being together. And I am forever grateful. So until next time, so much love to you.